Hey everyone, and welcome to my music note guide. If you've clicked on this video, I guess you have accepted the fact that there will be spoilers. If you've clicked on this video by accident somehow, now will be the time to turn off if you do not want to hear any spoilers, because I will be going into detail on the music note class, as well as there will be some items from some prosperity levels we'll talk about as well from the game. If you've played Gloomhaven Digital though, you will be well aware of this character, and you'll also be well aware of the items that I'll talk about too, so there won't be much to spoil in that respect. But if you are a tabletop player, then now is your chance to turn back if you need to. If you do enjoy the content, please do give it a like and consider subscribing. I've got plenty more guides to do. I've now finished all of my starter guides for the starting characters in Gloomhaven. This is my first unlockable character guide, and I will be trying to do triangles next. And then soon as we start getting some more news about the unlockable classes that are coming later this year in Gloomhaven Digital, I'll be moving on to those next. So hopefully by the time the game is out, I will have a guide on every single class in the game. I'm hoping so. So that'll be a lot of work, but I think it'll be worth it, and hopefully you guys will find it enjoyable. You can also catch me live at twitch.tv/mandatoryquest, where I stream every Monday, Wednesday and Sunday, usually Gloomhaven, so come hang out, say hi, and if you've got any questions about Gloomhaven, you can always come and ask me there. Okay then, well, seeing as you're still sticking around, I guess you want to know about the music note, aka the Soothsinger. Okay guys, let's take a look at our starting cards and our sort of starting strategy. So here are our starting cards. I'll put them up on the screen in the board game fashion so that you can see them all if you're playing the board game and you'd like to pause here just to see what all of the cards are. But the Soothsinger in general is one of the strongest support characters in the game. She has an amazing array of crowd control abilities and buffing abilities for our allies, one of the most focused characters in the game, and she fundamentally can break the game, especially at higher levels in many different ways. And yeah, she buys so much time for the rest of your team. An incredibly strong character, but also an incredibly focused character. This is not a character who you will be able to pick two cards and see what the enemy does and maybe change your top or your bottom. This is definitely a character where you have a very focused strategy of how you're going to be playing, and you will need to ensure that you kind of balance your cards between bottom and top actions as we go in that way to ensure that we have sort of good and effective turns. Also, with a small hand size of only 9, we don't take any burn cards with us at the beginning, and we, to be honest, very, very rarely pick them up or even consider them. With our 9 cards, all of our 9 cards need to work for us, because we're going to have one card played in front of us as a song for pretty much the entirety of, of every round. So realistically, we actually only have about 8 cards that we are going to be playing, each sort of long rest. We're going to have this song out for the rest of those. So that's kind of how this character works. A very, very strong character, very rewarding character with a very focused strategy. There is another sort of damage build that you can go with this character that's a bit of fun. I might touch on it a bit later, but certainly today we are going to be looking at what is considered to be the best support kind of build that I've found while playing in Guildmaster mode and playing in the tabletop as well. So let's go through the cards quickly that we've got here. We've got Power Ballad, we've got Defensive Ditty, we've got Song of Speed, Tuning the Outcome, Call to Action, Throw Voice, Singing Arrow, Wistful Wounding, and Nimble Knife. So from top to bottom, Power Ballad is a great effect. Being able to play this out as a song and be able to give our allies an extra +1 to one of their attacks each round is obviously very nice, and at level 1, +1 attack is extremely good. Also, the bottom Move To and Strengthen has some great synergy with some of our other cards, like Tuning the Outcome for being able to bless our allies. So Strengthen is a incredible effect, and I really like it at low levels too, because at low levels your attack deck is pretty crap, so this will certainly help. And also, we've got XP on the top and we've got XP on the bottom, so very, very good. This character levels extremely quickly, by the way, so if you are somebody who likes to come away from a scenario with double digits XP very, very consistently, then yeah, this is a character for you. So Defensive Ditty, Shield 1, affect our allies. This is very good at level 1. If we're being attacked for 2 or 3 damage, this could, mitigate 50%, 33% of the damage that we're taking. Obviously, as we get to higher levels, this Shield 1 doesn't scale quite as well, but the bottom of this is actually excellent as well, being able to essentially just, decline any damage on an ally during a turn is very, very strong. So Defensive Ditty is a great role player for us, and the 9 initiative is excellent. Song of Speed is pretty similar in that respect to Defensive Ditty. You know, it's got great initiative, and on the top of it is a +1 move and a +1 range to all of their ranged attacks, which can be very, very nice, especially if you've got summons. So summons can often sort of like end up getting stuck and you summon them in the first room, and then they spend the rest of the scenario chasing you, right? So Song of Speed is a nice way to be able to get those summons to kind of keep on moving and maybe catch up with you. The +1 range is, you know, maybe not so useful, because you'll quite often find that your allies should really be positioning themselves to ensure that they can obviously do all of their targets on their attacks and things like that. But, you know, this has some sort of synergy with the spell we've run, like Fire Orbs and, you know, Impaling Eruption. There's definitely some side niche use for the top of this. And the bottom is just target all enemies within range 4 and muddle them. Very strong, especially once we start to throw a lot of curses in our enemy's attack modifier deck. This can definitely start to do some work for us. So Song of Speed, very strong. Tuning the outcome. We've got the Bless, affect all adjacent allies. This is just a nice action for us to take in our kind of downturns when perhaps we're not, either we're between rooms or we are in a situation where, you know, we want to be able to maybe play this and this together, you know, right? We could move in, strengthen, then we could tuning the outcome and then actually bless those allies as well. This could be very strong. This is a very nice sort of like 2-card combination, right? And can certainly help your allies to do some more damage. Then we've got move 3 and curse. This is quite nice. The move 3, to be honest, is just decent. And the curse is something that you're never sad to see. This is nice because it's just sort of like giving you some incremental value as you move through the dungeon and position yourself. You know, curse 1 is not brilliant. You know, curses are much better in higher volumes because then you've got much greater chance of drawing them. But a curse is a curse, so you know, we're not sad to see that. Call to action, strengthen, affect all allies. This is great because we don't actually need to be anywhere near our allies at all, which is just fantastic. We can just be, you know, really far at the back of the room or something like that, and we could just play this to give them strengthen. This is kind of like is better than the bottom of Power Ballad in many ways because we don't actually need to worry about it. The only thing that this has got against it really is the initiative. You know, 85 initiative means that, you know, we'd have to strengthen them for their next attack on the following turn. So a bit of planning would be required for that. Then you've got one ally within range 3 may perform an attack 4. So this is a melee attack. And so you will need to obviously have an ally that does melee attacks or is within melee range. So you do have to think about that. But attack 4 is really, really well, you know, positioned for level 1. And attack 4 at level 1, that's above the curve, the general curve, you know. Most characters would have to, you know, jump through some kind of hoop in order to get this. So, you know, for example, flanking strike on the scoundrel would require that. This also combos quite nicely with the Mind Thief, with the Mind's weakness. So if the Mind Thief has the Mind's weakness in play, you can get them to attack for 4. They're actually going to attack for 6 at level 1. So it's pretty crazy. So very, very strong. And yeah, this is a great effect. Throw Voice is probably our best card at level 1, really, apart from our songs. Being able to just disarm anything within sort of range 3. It's just so strong. And the grouping of this, you know, is a fairly common grouping. You should be able to get a couple of enemies with this every single turn. And this is going to be definitely your go-to card. And you're going to be quite often finding that you are short resting to get this card back or using your stamina potions to get this back in the early games. Don't ever use the bottom of this unless you're right at the end of a scenario and, you know, for some reason you can move something into a trap for the win. Singing Arrow is another great card for us, like Throw Voice, being able to get that cursing going. The bottom is just sort of like an extra little attack that might be useful for you to chuck in here or there, but it's certainly not why you're playing this card. We're going to be prioritizing using the top of this card, and the bottom of this card is kind of like secondary value. So Wistful Wounding is one of my pet favorite songs. It's not going to be everybody's favorite song. A lot of people probably don't even run Wistful Wounding, but I absolutely love it. I think being able to add wound to your allies' attacks, I often play with Spellweave, I often play with the Cragheart. It's amazing with Dirt Tornado. Has some great combo potential with that. Straight out of the gate at level 1 with no extra, you know, money invested into enhancements. It's just so good. And especially has some great synergy with, you know, your Throw Voice, and being able to allow your allies to get wounds going on the enemies in the room, and then you can start using your kind of crowd control abilities to stop them from taking turns, but they're still taking a damage every turn because they have that wound. So I think wound can definitely add up to, you know, 2 to 3 points of damage on several enemies, per room. So I love it. I absolutely love it. The bottom of this card as well is quite a nice little sort of sneaky loot that you can get going as well. A little attack here and getting some loot. Yeah, it's pretty good. You actually have quite a nice attack modifier deck. In fact, you have one of the best attack modifier decks, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it might even be the best in the entire game. So any chance that you get to draw a attack modifier card from this character once you start to get to higher levels and get those perks unlocked is amazing. Nimble Knife is kind of just a role player card that we're bringing in here. This is really just for the move 4 on the bottom. We're not going to be using it for the top very often. We may find some value to do so here or there. Again, like the attack 2 is at level 1, underwhelming. The curse is obviously a nice effect, but one curse is not really where you want to be. You want to be trying to do multiple curses in a single action. And the Bless effect one adjacent ally, again, it's not as good as, for example, blessing everybody, right? All of these cards kind of have a nice little role. Most of them we're concentrating on either playing them for the top or the bottom. I think the only kind of card that really bucks that trend really is Power Ballad. I absolutely love playing Power Ballad for the bottom in the early sort of sections, and then once we've got the wounds going, I like to transition and have that as my song. Same with Defensive Ditty is mainly going to be used for the bottom, but occasionally will be used for the top. Song of Speed is going to be mainly used for the bottom, occasionally for the top. Tuning the Outcome is going to be used mainly for the bottom, occasionally for the top. Call to Action, similar. It's probably going to be used for the top, might be used for the bottom in certain situations as well, depending on your party comp. To be honest, this is one of those cards where I don't use it probably to its full potential. I think this card has a lot of potential, with the Mind's Weakness and the Mind Thief and with other characters. So I think Call to Action could actually be, a card that, depending on your party comp, you're either playing the top or you're playing the bottom a lot, and I'm sure you'll figure that out. Throw Voice mainly for the top, Singing Arrow mainly for the top, Wistful Wounding mainly for the top, and then for the bottom to get some loot at the end, and Nimble Knife mainly for the bottom. Okay, so that is our level 1 cards. Okay, so on to level 2. So level 2, we have Soothing Lullaby, and we also have Change Tempo. Now, this is not a completely easy decision to make between these two cards. So personally, I have taken Change Tempo a few times. I've also taken Soothing Lullaby a few times. I think in Guildmaster mode, the fact that you can actually re-spec your mercenary whenever you like means that I lean a little bit more towards Soothing Lullaby, because I think having this heal 1 song effect can actually be very useful when you're dealing against enemies that have poisoned and wound, and in Guildmaster mode there are a lot of those. So I think that extra little heal oneself is sneaky good, and the bottom heal is actually a very easy heal to pull off with the range 4, and it's 1 XP, so it's pretty simple. This does not give you any experience points, but the move 5 is really good for moving around the level, and the Immobilize is obviously only good against certain types of enemies. It's only good against melee enemies. It's not good against anybody else. I would suggest here at this juncture, you take whichever one you feel is more useful. I have definitely not taken Soothing Lullaby before in the board game, and that was because I was planning to take Tranquil Trill at level 8. So if you do have a plan to take Tranquil Trill, which is basically the kind of supercharged version of Soothing Lullaby top, if you like, then I would actually suggest that you don't take Soothing Lullaby at level 2, because you do not have the respec option. If you don't really plan on playing all the way up to level 8, or you really feel like the heal is going to make a big deal to you, because you could always skip Tranquil Trill. I don't think Tranquil Trill is a slam dunk pick, but certainly I think this card has a lot of value in Guildmaster early, and the 11 initiative is great. We do want some late initiatives though, but I think that this card is the top is like situational crowd control, the bottom is obviously a great move, but I think Soothing Lullaby on balance I think is better, especially if you can respec in Guildmaster mode. But that's definitely something to think about. Take a look at Tranquil Trill. If you do plan on taking that card at level 8, then perhaps you might actually want to go for Change Tempo here. It also does depend a lot on what your items are. This character does benefit from getting some of the prosperity level items, so we're I'll put some images on screen now for you, but these items are actually also in Guildmaster mode, which is comfortable shoes and serene sandals. Both of these allow you to just basically turn your base move 2s into move 3 or move 4, and that can be incredibly strong for this character because we don't actually take many cards that have movement on them. So if you can get access to those items early, which in Guildmaster mode you may do right out of the gate, then you can definitely ignore change tempo move 5 because you're going to have enough movement with those items. So we're taking Soothing Lullaby here. And the card we're actually going to be taking out is we're going to be taking out Song of Speed. This is just like an early initiative for another earlier initiative. I mean, 5 and 11 is pretty indifferent. It does sometimes matter with some of your allies though, so worth thinking about. However, this is just a nice simple change. We're not really playing Song of Speed for any other reason than to help us get from A to B a little bit quicker. I think the +1 range is something that isn't really as useful. You know, realistically, this could just be a +1 move a lot of the time. Now, if you're playing with summons, then this definitely has some more value. But if you're not playing with summons, then I think that then this is a fine switch. So we'll be making this switch here. It's also worth noting that, you know, certain times this character will need to go for different songs, and we can always like sideboard these sort of songs in depending on the scenarios that you're up against. Okay, on to level 3. So we have Echoing Aria and we have Crippling Chorus. So Crippling Chorus is an incredibly strong effect. You know, this is the kind of effect that you really like to see as a crowd control character and as somebody who is you know, trying to buy time for your team. You know, Crippling Chorus, you could, you know, walk into a brand new room, and as long as your positioning is good, you could probably stun an entire room, buying your team an entire round, you know, giving yourself just an entire round where your enemies don't do anything at all. Very, very strong. However, it is a burn effect, which is something that we have got to be extremely careful about with this character. The 62 initiative isn't insane. It means that we will have to pair this with something else in order to kind of probably, you know, use the top effect of this efficiently, most likely. The bottom is very good. Move 3 Disarm. This is the same as Disintegration Beam, if you remember that from my Tinkerer guide. So it's a very similar kind of effect. And again, this card's actually pretty similar if you think about it. It's got a very powerful top burn action and, you know, a move and disarm on the bottom. So Crippling Chorus is a very good card all round. However, we do have Echoing Aria hanging out here. Now, Echoing Aria, the song itself on this card isn't, you know, anything to write home about, I don't think. I don't think that you really want to be playing this for the song. I mean, there's going to be some side potential that this could be quite good against perhaps high shield enemies in certain situations. So if you're against like imps or living spirits, then I can see some application of the Retaliate being quite good, especially because it has range, which is, yeah, I mean, range on a on a Retaliate effect is just, wow, it basically solves most of the issues that I have with Retaliate most of the time. This card solves those. It goes early enough to matter, you know, and it's early enough to matter, and it's got range. This also combos very well with the Spellweaver Retaliate build that I ran a few weeks ago on stream. I also made a video, so I'll put a little link to that video in the corner now for you if you would like to take a look at that. But so really we're taking this card though for the bottom action, which is Shield 2, effect all lies within range 3. This is excellent. Shield 2 is you know, a scalable amount of shield. Shield 2 is going to matter a lot more later on in the game. This is just a lot more sustainable than the Shield 1 that we got from Defensive Ditty. It's a bottom action too, which means that it's not going to, you know, for example, we could play Echoing Aria and we could play Wistful Wounding as our opening turn on Initiative 8. That's just like an incredibly strong sort of opening, really. I just really like the effect of Echoing Aria, and the 8 initiative is going to be super good for just using it as like a move 2 as well if we needed to, you know, using those comfortable shoes. I think we're going to be taking Echoing Aria here, but this is not an easy decision to make, and absolutely Crippling Chorus is, yeah, is an incredibly strong effect and card, but I think that this just does a little bit more for us. So depending on kind of what you are doing with your party makeup, this might change a little bit here onto actually what you want to get rid of here at this instance. So if you're actually playing in a 2 or 3 player group, I would actually kind of consider here dropping Call to Action, mainly because I think the strengthening affecting all allies on the top is just, you know, it loses a lot of value when you're only strengthening, you know, 1 ally, maybe 2 allies. I think that you could probably you know, try and orchestrate a way for Power Ballad, the bottom of that, to actually do it for you. The bottom is still a very strong attack though, so if you are playing 2-player, you know, you might be losing out on some damage there with this attack, so that's worth thinking about. But I think on balance, I don't really like this card very much with 2 or with 3. I think with 4 though, I think it's still pretty strong. I would consider removing Power Ballad if you are actually playing in 4-player, mainly because the +1 attack is, you know, not going to be as good as having the wound most of the time, and also, you know, move to strengthen all adjacent allies is going to be much harder for you to pull off than perhaps, you know, just strengthening all allies wherever they may be. So this is going to be a bit kind of like party dependent, what it is that you have. But for me, let's just say that I'm running like a simple sort of 2 or 3 person party. I actually think that I want to get rid of this here, and also, as I said, I like to play usually the Soothsinger, Spellweaver, and the Cragheart, and I think on balance we're not going to be able to get as much use out of the bottom of this either with that kind of combination. So I'm going to get rid of Call to Action and we'll bring in Echoing Aria. All right, so level 4, this is when things get spicy, and we see probably the best level 4 card in the game, and arguably one of the best cards, you know, in the game, full stop. Disorienting Dirge, or Disorientating Dirge, I've been calling it for months on stream wrongly, as chat keeps confirming to me, but once I saw that and got that in my head, I can't get it out of my head. But anyway, this card is just insanely good. The bottom is really why we want to be playing this card. So the curse, target all enemies within range 3. You can do some silly amounts of cursing with this, especially if you're, you know, against any kind of swarming enemies. You could be cursing, you know, 4 or 5 times in a single turn. This is definitely a card that you want to be using Stamina Potion to bring back and do again and again and again. It's just such a good card. And the Bless as well is just, essentially, you can usually hit everything with this. It's not particularly difficult to set up. A situation where you curse 4 or 5 enemies and you bless, you know, 2 or 3 allies. It's really not very difficult to set up a situation like that. This combos very well with summons as well, blessing all of the summons, so you could just get some sort of crazy blessing going with this. The song on the top as well is pretty good when you get yourself into a situation when you've now maxed out on your curses. You've managed to curse the enemy so much you've run out of curses. There is only 10 curses total for both allies, and then there's 10 for enemies, so the maximum amount the enemies can have is 10. So once you kind of hit that magic 10 number, you can obviously swap out and start using this as the song, and then they'll start drawing them pretty consistently, and then you just swap back to playing it for its bottom. Just, yeah, Disorientating Dirge. I love this card. The card opposite it, Inspiring Anthem, is unfortunately uninspiring. Not particularly inspiring for us, unfortunately. I mean, this isn't terrible. It's just a shame that it's up against Disorientating Dirge, but any one ally may perform a move 5. Obviously very good, but I've never been a huge fan of these effects because presumably your ally has a plan on what it is that they would like to do. So unless that you're either helping a summon catch up, or you are I don't know, or you have a particular member of your team who is struggling for whatever reason in a particular scenario with movement, I would think at that point they would need to look at their character build themselves and try and figure out. I feel like movement is something that each character should be fairly self-sufficient with doing. You shouldn't be relying on other characters to help you move, you know. But there's definitely some combo potential. You know, you can use this obviously to allow, like, you know, an amazing, like, Forceful Storm, Unstable Upheaval type combo or something like that, you know, where you can kind of say, hey, you can play your big, you know, your buff bottom action and your attack top action, and don't worry, I'll move you around, it's fine. So there's, if you're playing solo, I could see you finding some okay use for this, but generally speaking, you're not going to find much use for this. The bottom of this is very strong. Attack 5, just straight up. At level 4, that's above the curve in terms of damage for sure. Certain parties, again, this isn't going to be very strong because it depends on if you're mainly ranged. I mean, Disorientating Dirge is just so good. It's just a bit of a shame, really, that we literally just we blitz by this and we just snap up Disorientating Dirge and we never look back. So the card we're going to take out here is we're going to take out Nimble Knife, and we're going to be bringing in Disorienting Dirge. I'm going to say Disorientating Dirge probably quite a bit, and I apologize for that, but that's because it's on my brain, and that's what I've been calling it for years. Incorrectly, but that's what I've been calling it. So the reason why we kind of get rid of Nimble Knife is you know, we've got the curse and the bless effects now built into this card, so that's very good. Also, we're mainly really using this for the move 4, which you know, is a bottom action, and we're swapping it with another bottom action, which is, you know, this. So this is a good point to talk about movement. I'm quite a greedy player when I play my Soothsinger, so I don't really run much movement at all, and I usually sort of rely on boots to get me through. So if you have, you know, comfortable shoes or serene sandals, or even if you were to have you know, a big plus movement, you know, set of boots, you can often get around the movement problems that this character will have using this build. However, if you are poor, you don't have any of those items, you may struggle a little bit with movement with this build. So just kind of keep that in mind. You know, you may need to change a few little things around here or there to get yourself that extra movement. But I'm quite greedy when I play, and I know that I'm going to have, you know, gold, and I'm going to have items to be able to sort of solve these issues that I have. Okay, level 5. We have Melody and Harmony, and we have Mobilizing Measures. So Mobilizing Measures is, you know, or Measure, sorry, is a good card for solving those movement issues we were just talking about. So if you are struggling with movement, then I can absolutely see a reason for using this. The top of this has some nice combo potential, again, similar to Song of Speed, where potentially we could actually... we could move before we do our attack, so that allows us to do like Forceful Storm, then Unstable Upheaval, and do that move. You can also tag boots onto this, so even though it's a move 1, it is a move 1 action, so you're allowed to add a pair of boots onto this, so you can actually do quite a bit of movement. So this has some good use. It kind of gives you a pseudo blinking cape, which is an item that you can get later as well. So I quite like this. I think it's it has some corner use. However, for us, it's not really what we're going to be doing, because like I said, we're a bit greedy here. We don't really care about the movement so much. So we're going to be actually going for Melody and Harmony. Now, we don't want to be playing the top of this ever. Really strongly suggest that you don't. By playing this, not only are you burning this card, but you're then also committing to taking 2 cards out of your rotation to be songs. 1 song is really where this character shines, and you want to use your other cards for crowd control abilities. So don't fall into this trap. I think even if you had lots of stamina potions and, you know, like talismans and ways for you to be able to get these cards back, earrings, I just don't think it's worth it. The main reason why we're taking this is just that nice little move 3, attack 3, range 3. It's a very simple action, but actually at this point in time, we've started to get a really good attack modifier deck together. So drawing cards from our attack deck can actually be pretty good for us, and can actually do us quite a lot of damage, and it's helping our team out while we're moving. So it's just, you know, we're getting 3 movement, and we're getting to tag an attack on the end of it that could actually be very, very useful. So I really like this card. So we're taking Melody and Harmony here. So the card we're going to be taking out is Tuning the Outcome here. The move 3 curse is only a single curse, which is obviously is diminished quite a lot in value. You know, being able to only do 1 curse versus the amount of curses that we can do now with Disorienting Dirge, and you know, we still have Singing Arrow. We've got much better options for cursing, so this doesn't really have any value, and I think that having the extra attack is the better. Like I said, this is pretty much a straight swap bottom action for bottom action. We're not really considering the top action that we're losing here, because we weren't very often probably being able to play the top action, or we may be occasionally, but this is generally considered to be like just a swap, because this is a bottom action for a bottom action. And also our initiative stays the same, which is really nice, because it kind of keeps our sort of our composition of early and late initiatives in order. Okay, on to level 6. So we have Pull the Strings, and we have Provoke Terror. Now this is a card that you like to see. Provoke Terror. So, I mean, if there could be a perfect card, I guess it would just say stun everything indefinitely, but this is pretty close. Provoke Terror is just an awesome card. Being able to stun at range 4 as well. I mean, there's unnecessarily long range here, but that will pretty much guarantee that you can get what you need to and be able to reach those archers at the back of rooms, and also be able to get those cultists maybe that are hiding behind their Living Bones friends. The bottom of this card as well, attack 4, range 4, push 3. I mean, that's a very good attack, and with our attack modifier deck, we can actually do some very good damage with it. The push 3 is not, you know, nothing to sniff at either. That could help trigger a trap. That could help, you know, position them for a potentially like a singing arrow on the next turn. You know, this has got a lot of potential, you know. In fact, you could sort of do the bottom of this and then singing arrow on the same turn, right? I mean, you'd be going quite late, but it's completely possible. So I really love Provoke Terror. I mean, it's an incredibly strong crowd control card, and it's got an awesome attack on the bottom to boot. Pull Strings, unfortunately, is a kind of a fun effect, but it doesn't really do that much. Being able to move an enemy around can have some corner case use. For example, with the Scoundrel, it can really help the Scoundrel out from making sure that they can get their bonuses and make sure they can get their Visage, which is their, you know, assassinate ability done. So there's definitely some synergy with Pull the Strings and with some of the other classes. However, a lot of the time this just isn't really going to amount to anything. It's not really going to be affecting things, and you kind of want your song to be constantly adding value every single round and be doing something for you every single round. And this, I think, you know, maybe 1 in every 3 rounds it might be useful. The bottom is fine, you know, being an enemy. I mean, the fact that it's only an attack +0 and a range +0, it does mean that you could get, for example, an archer to attack, you know, another archer or something silly like that. So there are some options there because it is a ranged attack potentially that they can use. But it's just, yeah, just pretty underwhelming. And again, it's another situation here where you're up against a card that is just so much better that yeah, unfortunately, Pull the Strings. No, we just, we don't look back and we take Provoke Terror. So here is the point when we would consider taking out Power Ballads. This is, you know, if you haven't taken it out already. For me, I'm going to be taking this out now. So the +1 attack each of our attacks is good, but it's not really scaling. It's probably, you know, equating to maybe 1 or 2 damage, depending on obviously how many mercenaries we have. You know, let's say if we had 2 mercenaries, if I had a Spellweaver and a Cracker, this is 2 extra damage per turn. Whereas I think Wistful Wounding, you know, if we manage to get wound on like 4 characters, that could be up to 4 damage per turn. So I think this scales a lot better than this, so we're going to be taking this out. We will miss the move to Strengthen though, which is a bit of a shame, but I mean, to be honest, we are going to be able to stun. And now that we're getting to a little bit of a higher level, hopefully our allies are a little bit of a higher level, so they themselves have sort of started to get some more powerful things that they can do. So they can probably either self-strengthen, or their attack modifier decks have gotten a lot better anyway, so we don't have to, you know, don't have to worry necessarily about propping them up so much with Strengthen. Okay, on to level 7. So we have Nightmare Serenade, and we have Booming Proclamation. So Booming Proclamation is a card that I actually have a lot. I've had a lot of fun playing with Booming Proclamation. The attack 1, target all enemies within range 2, push 2 is great. That means that you can draw quite a lot of cards from your attack modifier deck. And as we know, we have an amazing attack modifier deck. That's always a good thing. The bottom of this is, I mean, it's not a great burn effect. I mean, it's pretty bad, really, considering the level that we are. Level 7 to burn to make all of our allies within range 3 perform, you know, a melee attack as well. It's not like they just get to perform an attack. I think that even if you had lots and lots of summons, I don't really see the bottom of this being particularly useful. If you are interested in taking this, it's definitely for the top, and I do think that it has some good use and can be quite a lot of fun. But for this build here, we really want to focus on that crowd control, and the amount of cursing that Nightmare Serenade gives us access to is just really pretty special. And really, we don't want to be focusing in on the top of this. As we've seen before with previous cards, we've actually removed cards that only curse one thing in an action. So again, Nightmare Serenade, the top of this, only being able to do 1 curse per round is not where we want to be with this character. We definitely want to be using the bottom of this card, and we want to be doing 3 curses with this, or we want to be using Disorienting Dirge and doing as many curses as we can, 4 or 5 curses. You know, we want to be really stacking those curses quickly and then forcing the enemy to draw them. So Nightmare Serenade is also 13 initiative. Yeah, we just absolutely love Nightmare Serenade for this build, so that's what we'll be taking. So at this stage, we are, you know, looking really for a card to drop that is a bottom action, or a card that we predominantly now play for the bottom action. And Defensive Ditty, that shield 1, has started to lose its value now, and we've been probably mainly playing Defensive Ditty for the bottom action to try and protect an ally from 1 attack. Now, if we have lots and lots of curses, do we really care if they get attacked? So Obviously, this is perfect because it means that we guarantee that we don't take any damage. However, I think that now we can concentrate much more on our cursing. So we're going to be dropping Defensive Ditty here. I'm going to be bringing in Nightmare Serenade. We do miss the 9 initiative. It is quite nice to go under 10. However, really anything north of around about like 15 or 20. 15 to 20 is when you start getting maybe into more of the kind of the dangerous territory with initiative, when some of the quicker enemies will be able to sort of come and get you. So as long as you can go sort of like under 15, that's usually okay. I mean, there are some enemies obviously that have like 7s and things like that we'd really struggle with. So depending on your actual scenario, I can absolutely see situations when actually you may bring in, like if you're against Night Demons, I could see you bringing in a 5 initiative just to try and make sure you beat them to the punch. No, 13 here, we're really happy. Not much different than 9. And yeah, the bottom of this is just really, really good and it's going to help us do cursing. Also important to note, this has the attack line on it. So this allows us to draw cards from our attack modifier deck again. So perfect. Okay, so on to level 8. So level 8, this is when we see Tranquil Trill, which we've talked about a little bit before, and Commanding Presence. So let's talk a little bit about, let's talk about Tranquil Trill first. So if you haven't taken the heal action yet, so if you did not take Soothing Lullaby, then I think that Tranquil Trill here is, yeah, a pretty good pickup and something that you're going to want. The heal 2 is not, you know, it's double Soothing Lullaby, but to be honest, you don't really, it's more about the process of removing the poison and the wound rather than about healing your allies, you know, for lots and lots of damage. Now, obviously, heal 2 is going to be better than heal 1, but I actually find that, you know, mechanically, heal 1, you know, often achieves what we really want to achieve. Don't get sucked into thinking that if you've already taken Soothing Lullaby, you know, thinking that, oh, wow, this is a strict upgrade, I must take this. So I don't think that's necessarily the case. But if you don't have any healing and you need some more healing and you didn't take Soothing Lullaby the first time, Tranquil Trill is absolutely fine choice. The bottom of this card with the disarm, target all adjacent enemies is obviously amazing. The only problem being that this is a bottom, so we're going to have to start the turn adjacent to those enemies and then play this, which is a little bit awkward, puts us in a bit of an awkward position. You know, our positioning is usually at the back using all of our ranged abilities, so it's not usually in this position where we're going to be next to enemies and need to disarm them. So although this is an incredibly strong effect, it just doesn't really play into our character at the moment. But when we get to level 9, we'll talk a little bit about how that may change. We also have Commanding Presence here, which is one ally within range 3 may perform an attack 2, target all adjacent enemies. This could be very nice if you have like a tank in your party who's always in the middle and always kind of like, you know, trying to attack people, and they always are in the middle. You could also, you know, combo this with the Mind Thief. I think this character has quite a lot of nice synergy with the Mind Thief, being able to get that Mind's weakness. You know, that's essentially attack 4, target all adjacent enemies, which is super nice. However, there are a few downsides with this. You know, Retaliate, for example, this, you know, you might not be able to play this against Retaliate enemies full stop. I think it might be too much damage because the attack 2 is quite low. You're going to have, you know, shields that are going to be in play, and attack 2 is pretty poor. So even with some of the more kind of like tanky characters, especially from the starting groups, you've really only got the Brute as the kind of sole tanking character, and the Brute has a really terrible attack modifier deck. So being able to like do an attack 2, I mean, I just wouldn't really expect anything great to happen. So Commanding Presence is a situational card that I think if you have a tank and they have a great attack modifier deck, or if you have like a Mind Thief and you can plan this out, this definitely has some use, but it's not, you know, in a vacuum, it's not super great. So for this build here, we're in a bit of an awkward spot here because, you know, we've already taken the heal card, and I don't really think that we need to upgrade to a heal 2. The disarm is good, but I don't think we're going to be in a great position to be able to use it because of what we're going to take at level 9. So I think here we actually are going to go back and take Booming Proclamation, because Booming Proclamation here is just a nice attack, allows us to draw a lot of cards. That push is pretty nice, and yeah, just being able to have an attack at our disposal is good. It's also going to be nice to have another kind of like late-ish initiative card here, I think. So we're taking Booming Proclamation here. The card we're going to be taking out now is we're actually going to be taking out Singing Arrow. The reason for this is we now have, you know, other cursing options at our disposal. So we're not really struggling to get to that magic number of 10 curses anymore. You can have too much curse, it seems. So we'll be getting rid of Singing Arrow. The attack 1, range 3 wound is not really what we were playing this card for, so we don't really care about seeing that. And now we actually get access to a nice top attack action here that can help us push enemies into situations where we can start using, our other CC abilities perhaps on the following turn. Okay, on to level 9. So level 9, we get 2 different cards that are very interesting for different reasons. So Captivating Performance, and we get Shadow Puppets. So let's talk a little bit about Shadow Puppets. So I alluded to last time that I think the Tranquil Trill, the bottom of this, would be, fairly difficult to make happen. Well, you make it happen with Shadow Puppets. So the top of Shadow Puppets is move 4 and jump. Force all enemies moved through to perform an attack 3 action targeting another enemy with you controlling the actions. This is actually... I've had a lot of fun playing with this card, and I've had a lot of success playing with this card, mainly because of the fact that if you play at very high levels, you're playing at scenario level 7, which is what I like to play at, in base Guildmaster, and then sometimes I even play on, party level 9 by playing on the advanced difficulty mods. This can actually be great because the enemies... they have, they have huge retaliates, they have poisons, they have wounds, they have curses, they have all of these negative conditions, these other things that you can start to kind of really make work in your favor. But yeah, this can actually be super good. It also sets you up amazingly for, like I said, either a Tranquil Trill, and also would set you up for doing an amazing Disorienting Dirge as well. If you ever find yourself in a bit of an awkward position, being able to do this. So Shadow Puppets top is actually really nice, and I've had a lot of fun playing with it, and I can definitely recommend it for the kind of attack damage build that you might want to go with this character for sure. The bottom of this as well, 2 allies within range 3 may perform attack 4. That's a bit more niche because again you would need to have 2 allies that kind of are melee attack allies and that are going to be there and be wanting to do that. That's not going to be the case a lot of the time. I imagine that most people will be probably playing with, maybe 3, maybe 4, and you're not always going to have two allies in a good position to be able to take advantage of this. So, but you're mainly playing this for the top, I think, because again, if you see movement on the top of a card, you know that there's going to be great ways you can kind of break it and combo it with other cards as well, especially when you have so many strong bottom actions on this character. However, it is opposite a card that is quite frankly amazing. So Captivating Performance. So this is where we see the kind of big upgrade to Power Ballad. This is the all allies add +1 attack to all of their attacks. Every AoE that we do is doing 1 extra damage to every single target. And that is just a huge amount of damage. And that can add up to a crazy amount. Dirt Tornado with this, Fire Orbs, Impaling Eruption, Inferno when you get to level 9 with the Spellweaver. I mean, the list goes on really of how good and how much extra damage this can do. The difference between like this and wound, obviously wounding everything is great because that's getting extra damage. You always want to do damage sooner, right? Best enemy is a dead enemy. If an enemy is dead, then they can't attack you. It's always better to do damage now than later. We have to talk about the bottom of this card too, with the stun range 3 target 3. I mean, it's just, this card is just like, almost one of the perfect card all wrapped up in one, really. So being able to stun potentially those awkward enemies that aren't grouped, perhaps you open a door and those enemies aren't really in a position, that'll allow you to then position yourself and then be able to do this, on a following turn. I think it's great. It's a bit annoying that it's on the bottom, right? Because now we can't actually, we're going to have to ensure that we move into the correct position and then play this and not move. A little bit awkward. It would have been nice to have this combo with Shadow Puppets. So maybe if you get Chimeric Formula, the new version of Chimeric Formula in digital, perhaps you can make that happen. It's just so good. It means that we don't necessarily have to worry about the pattern like with Provoke Terror. So it is a shame for Shadow Puppets really that this card exists, but yeah, Captivating Performance we absolutely love, so we'll be taking Captivating Performance here. But Shadow Puppets I've had a lot of fun with, and I can recommend on Guildmaster Mode, resetting your mercenary a few times and just playing around with Shadow Puppets because it's a lot of fun. Okay, so as I kind of alluded to, that doing damage now is better than doing damage later. We can straight away get rid of Wistful Wounding pretty comfortable here. Now, I can see that a lot of people probably, might have considered dropping Wistful Wounding a lot earlier than this. As I say, I have a particular love of this card. I think that it's super strong. You can kind of like substitute this effect through enhancements. That is a very common thing to do. If you have got the gold to be able to, add wound to Dirt Tornado itself, or, to other effects, then fair enough. You may actually find that your mileage doesn't really get there with Wistful Wounding. But I absolutely love it. I think it's just, I prefer to not lean too much on enhancements. I like having enhancements, but I don't think you should necessarily always focus on having the money to do enhancements, and I think just having access to the wound is really good. But here it's a very, very simple, easy choice. Wistful Wounding was probably outclassed a while ago anyway, but I just love it, so I've ended up keeping it. So we're going to be going to Captivating Performance. Okay, so here we are at level 9, and I will put all of the level 9 cards up for you your board game players, so you can see what they are. The main kind of cards really that we've only really stuck with one card from level 1 now, which is Throw Voice, which has been very, very strong. And yeah, we are just amazing at cursing the enemies, at stunning them, and just stopping them. I mean, this character is, as I said, this character is at level 9, in my opinion, borderline broken. One of the strongest characters in the game, quite comfortably. Certainly the best support character. So you will have a lot of fun, and you will find the game to be, well, pretty much a breeze if you can play this character well at level 9 for sure. Okay, so let's have a look at perks, because we've talked a little bit about these decks. So let's just have a look at this crazy set of perks that we can get access to. So the first thing we really want to be doing is we want to be removing our -2 here. So we'll do that. Then we want to remove our -1s. Now this is like being extremely consistent. Now I could actually see an argument here for you to, instead of doing like this and this, to actually just, shoot the moon with this character. I mean, you don't attack very often in the early game, so I could absolutely see you, just for fun, actually taking this perk as your first perk, just to try and say, do you know what? I don't care if I draw a -1 or a -2. I just want to draw the, me drawing a +1 isn't really going to do anything. I want to try and draw the +2, the ×2, or the +4. So, I feel like if you want to, and you want to play like super like risky, or you have a way of strengthening your Soothsinger maybe, then this might be legit. But we're gonna wait a little bit, and we're gonna do it now. Now we can start to look at some of these other ones down here. I definitely like this one over anything else. I think you always want to prioritize stun. I think that's great, and the fact that it gets rid of a -1 is just sort of like a nice bonus. However, again, if you wanted to go for pure damage, you can certainly start taking these ×2, but I really like this. So this now means that we are not, able to do less than whatever our attack is. Now, we only have small attacks, but, that's an important thing to think about. If you're attacking something that doesn't have any shield, you are going to be doing some damage, most likely, unless you get unlucky, right? So we've taken this, which is the -1 and the +stun. Then I think we can start sort of looking at other effects. We probably want to add like the poison and the wound. I would suggest, because we're using Wistful Wounding a lot, we're going to probably just take the poison one. We're going to take the curse one. We'll take this one for the muddle. Actually, taking the disarm was probably the... I completely forgot that this was here. Actually, take the disarm early as well. That's an absolutely great one to take early. We'll take the wound one, just for the damage. I mean, the amount that you can do is pretty crazy. So how many have we done now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we could do like one more. Let's say we can do an extra one here. Let's do the +0 and +1 like this. There we go. So this will probably be what you'll end up looking like by the end with your added perks. Obviously, if you can get access to your extra perks for your checkpoints, then I think it's absolutely fine to put these +1s in here. Potentially add these curses. You aren't a character who really deals much with advantage. So when you're doing your attacks, it's probably unlikely that you have Eagle Eye Goggles. It's probably unlikely that you have Strengthen on you at all. So I don't mind rolling modifiers so much with this character. I think it's pretty decent, because you're not relying on that Strengthen effect as much. So you don't run the risk with rolling modifiers compared to other characters as much. And you also have like a pretty big deck as well, so you don't really need to worry about it as much. Okay, let's talk about some items. So let's talk about head items. So there isn't any particular head items that I would really recommend on this character, like straight away. I think, you know, you're probably going to want something like an empowering talisman as you go. Any way that you can basically keep using stamina potions, I think is really where you want to be. Hawk Helm is only increases range on your attack actions, not on your like disarm and stuff like that, right? Because throw voice doesn't actually... it just says, you know, it's not an attack. You have to... This Hawk Helm item only works when you have to physically draw attack modifier cards. So bear that in mind, that Hawk Helm doesn't actually, you know, that's an easy mistake to make early game, is to think that this would allow you to increase the range of that disarm action and that curse action. It does not. It's only when you draw attack modifier cards and you see that word attack. So I really like Empowering Talisman. I also don't mind Protective Charm in Guildmaster mode to get you something, because it kind of helps you, because as we know, the songs only affect your allies. So Soothing Lullaby doesn't heal you, which means that yes, your allies can't get up, you know, will be able to remove the poison and the wound, but unfortunately you won't. But Empowering Talisman, I think, is probably one of the best items for this character. Body items, really, you're going to be probably looking at an invisibility cloak. That's probably the way you want to go with this character. You kind of want to be that character to open a door and go invisible on the door, and then, you know, do all of your sort of like, you know, make your song, or, you know, be able to, you know, do your cursing and things like that. That's definitely kind of a role that you can play. You can scout for your team with a cloak, and I think you're quite a good character to do that with your early initiative. So I think like invisibility is probably where you want to be. For hand items, really, you're going to be looking for any kind of like wand item, any kind of item that supports the rest of your team. So for hand items, I don't want to talk about it too much. Just look for things that can help your team by generating elements for them, hopefully, or doing some sort of like effect that's going to help them out. You can use something like a balanced blade if you want to go for the damage build, which is, I have tried it out a few times. It is a lot of fun. Basically, just the way that you would play this is to play Balanced Blade, use a lot of attack 2 tops, just because you want to draw your attack modifier deck, because your attack modifier deck is so good that you just need to be able to draw from it. So this will be allowing you to do an attack 4. So Balanced Blade is obviously for the memes, but realistically, you're going to be choosing some support items. For your leg item, we talked a little bit about it before. You want to probably look for some comfortable shoes. I don't think I have any here at the moment, but there's some in the shop. But also the upgraded version is the Serene Sandal. So these allow you to use the default move 2 action as either a move 3 for comfortable shoes or a move 4 for Serene Sandals. These are excellent items for this character, because you're just going to be often, you know, moving into a position to do one of your good tops, and you're just going to want to be able to have a low initiative to be able to do that. So you're going to have to use a move 2, because all of your low initiative bottoms are not movements. So these are really good. Also, you know, as said, you can sometimes get away with just using a very good high value pair of boots, depending on how big the rooms are and how often you can long rest to get those items. And also depending obviously on some of your small items you can get too. Small items, definitely Stamina Potion. Minor Stamina Potion is an insta buy for you at level 1. Being able to do your throw voice multiple times in a single rest cycle is very important. Also, you could maybe consider getting stuff like mana potions to help your team. Say major stamina potions, you're going to be going for all of these. Also, you know, items such as star earrings, very good as well. I mean, it's good on every character, right? Particularly very strong character, but you are definitely a character who wants to prioritize stamina potions and ways to get cards back. Okay, let's talk about enhancements. So there aren't any, you know, I mean, there are a few absolutely bonkers broken enhancements that you can get, which we'll touch on. But at level 1, really the only enhancement that I think is like a slam dunk one is really to try and get an extra area on this throw voice. Very, very strong. You're going to keep this card all the way up to level 9, so it's a good investment in your character in general. So putting that on throw voice is very good. There aren't many others that are, you know, hugely needed. Again, if you had some extra money kicking around, you could put an extra hex on Singing Arrow if you wanted, but remember, you do drop that at a later point. If you're playing Guildmaster mode, you can sell your enhancements. So actually, I think you probably should enhance this in Guildmaster mode early game, make your life a little bit easier, and then you can always just sell it when you swap the card out at a later point. One of the best and, well, probably one of the most broken enhancements you can get is down here on Disorienting Dirge. We know that it's one of our strongest cards already, but when you actually add another effect onto this curse, if you add Disarm onto this curse, I mean, the card just becomes broken. The card just becomes insanely good. You are essentially going to be most of the time sort of like, you know, time walking your entire team, allowing your team to take a free turn. It's just crazy good. So Disarm, it's expensive, but it makes your life so much easier and just, you know, borderline breaks the game. You also have another broken enhancement you can do here. You can add Strengthen so that you're blessed, and then strengthen all your allies as well. Incredibly strong and trying to ensure that they do the most damage that they can possibly do. Sometimes for jokes, I put double bless on this just for a laugh. I don't think that's nowhere near as good as doing this. But again, if you're playing Guildmaster mode, you can absolutely do this for a bit of fun and then sell it. And yeah, don't have to worry about it. But this is, yeah, an incredibly strong pair of enhancements you can do for this character. You can, of course, add more hexes to your other effects. So Provoke Terror, adding another area onto that. In generally, you know, adding more areas onto these AoEs that you have on your other cards is going to be very good. You know, Provoke Terror, very good. Being able to put it onto the bottom of Nightmare Serenade, again, very nice. Just makes things easier for you. You know, you can also add potentially like poison effects and things like that. But this is when we're starting to get into like, you know, the realms of Guildmaster fantasy, where you have as much money as you like to do whatever you like. Honestly, really, this is the most important enhancement to get. Try and get this pretty early. It will help you out so much. Everything else, I think, is just, you know, the cherry on the cake, really. Okay, there we have it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. There's my Soothsinger guide. I hope you found it interesting. Definitely one of the better classes in Gloomhaven Digital, and kind of, you know, puts the Tinkerer to shame. The last guide that I did, really, the kind of control that this character gets. An incredibly strong character, an incredibly fun character that can break the game, and yeah, really kind of makes the game a lot easier at higher difficulty levels, that's for sure. If you did enjoy the video, please do consider hitting the like button and subscribing. It helps me out so much, and we're getting towards 1,000 subscribers on the channel, which is just sort of mind-blowing to me, really. But when we get to 1,000, I've got to do some sort of 1,000 viewer special. I'm thinking about doing a Q&A, so if you do have any questions that you want me to answer that maybe aren't long enough to really warrant a full video, but would be something that I could sort of chuck in as part of a video, then pop them in the comments below and I will see what I can do, and maybe it'll make the video. And as always, you can catch me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/MandatoryQuest every Monday, Wednesday and Sunday, playing Gloomhaven as always, so come and hang out with me there. But apart from that, guys, thank you again so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Bye. Well, it was fun, guys. It was a good scenario, I think. I think we can learn a bit more from this. I think we don't really need to play on this difficulty level, do we, really? What is this? They're only moving one. These guys aren't moving, so at least I can get an attack in before I run away. Oh, yeah. Looks pretty good to me.